Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Can Americans really afford precious metals, gold and silver? We'll explore that as we take a look at some data in these infographics on how Americans spend money. Yes, this is from engagingdata.com, and it shows some information compiled from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics that separates this particular data by age. I think it's quite fascinating to see where money comes in and how it goes out with American households and folks and different age levels. So let's take a look at this, and let's see if we can find places in here where potentially folks can buy precious metals. So we'll start out here with the average U.S. household spending, and the first category is under 25 years old with an average household income, and typically this would probably mean single. So these are singles here below the age of 25 here with $31,102. So we can see here that their salary is basically here under $30,000, and the Social Security, dividends, property, and other income from other sources potentially. Maybe they drive Uber a little bit from time to time. Then you have borrowing and savings that they have a very small amount there. Then they have the income and their total income and spending here from that after paying really very little taxes on the federal level and state and local level here. And then they've got their housing is the biggest expense, which makes sense. The utilities make sense that these things would be priorities. These are typically the prioritized areas here at the top. Then you have a vehicle cost per year, gas and insurance, other transportation. Maybe there might be times where they may take an Uber. By the way, this is probably doesn't account for ultra urban living where people will take cabs all the time or public transportation. These are probably suburban, but on average, essentially. And then you have, here's where it gets a little bit separated a bit here. You have food at home and you have eating out. And, usually, typically, if you are a single person, you probably will eat out just as much, if not more so, in some cases, more than at home. But this is an area where we can see that potentially, if they were to be enterprising or know how to cook and that type of thing, they could eat at home and potentially save some money there. Now, alcohol, this is, actually, I'm kind of surprised it's this low, but, for the average person, and have a beer every once in a while or what have you, that's obviously a luxury. And by the way, in this, as we look at these numbers, I'm not saying that people should just give up their luxuries or anything that where they can enjoy eating out or spend time with friends or have a beer or what have you. And you've got health insurance, other medical costs, and other insurance costs there. Then household spending. So, this is things, improvements in the home. If they're renting, it's probably going to be very minimal. If they own their own home, you can see where some of this stuff would be pretty expensive. So for this age group, assuming that they're renting or maybe they just bought a house, I don't know, but we'll see there. Then you have phone cost, and typically that's with maybe a cell plan or something nowadays. Then clothing costs, and education, and entertainment, and miscellaneous, and then gifts and charity. Now, the education costs would make sense that it would be this high. They're just coming out of college, probably paying on that debt. But entertainment cost, there's a lot here. It includes events, concerts, gym memberships, boats, accessories, includes TVs, other electronic devices, and the like. So when you have those types of things that are going on, there's still some room here, I believe, some room to accumulate a little bit of gold and really more than a substantial amount of silver, I believe, could be purchased and still enjoy these things. So for this age group, I would say that, yes, you wouldn't have to necessarily change your lifestyle too much to accumulate a bit of gold and silver there. Let's take a look at the next age group. This is from 25 to 34. So you can see here that maybe it's a newly married couple and they've started to increase their income collectively, potentially, but just starting out there, they're paying a little bit more in taxes, both on the state and local level there. And this is at, or maybe they're not married yet. Maybe they just, they've got to increase promotion in their job, and they're earning, almost $49,000 here. And but that's the spending. Now that's actually the spending. The income would be $69,000. So let's say they do this and they start a savings plan. That's actually very good if they're doing this. That is definitely good that they're 17.7% of total income. And so that's actually, I think, a good thing that they're doing there. And I think it's good to do it in cash. But I would even say some of this could probably go towards gold and silver. So you take a look at housing here. You can see that's a pretty large number that they go towards housing, utilities. Maybe they bought their first home, vehicle spending, and that would include purchases of new or used vehicles, and that's what they'd be paying per year for those vehicles. Gas and insurance. There you go. You can see it's 9.2% of all spending. It can be pricey. Other transportation. It could be, Ubers, taxis, buses, and the like. And then here we see it shifts a bit with the food at home and eating out. So there's a bit more food at home, but there's still a lot of eating out here. And I believe this number could go down potentially and that money could be used to buy some gold and silver. Then you see some alcohol here, and then health insurance, obviously a little bit more there. Other medical and insurance, and then household spending. It makes sense, especially if you own your own home, to see this number go up a bit. And then phone, cellular phone and data service. Makes sense that would go up, especially if there's two people, if it's a whole household. And then clothing there. And this is an area that I don't really spend a lot of money on. And I believe there's probably some way that you can probably cut back on that as well. But that's just me. In education, spending for supplies, for school, maybe it's for the kids if they have kids. And entertainment there, miscellaneous, and then charity. So if you take into account clothes, entertainment, miscellaneous for this age group, you could accumulate a much larger amount of gold and silver, I believe, and still be able to have some of these things for sure. But that's just some areas where it could be done for this particular age group. Let's move on to the next one here. From 35 to 44, we can see the incomes are increasing. Collective salary for the household is $83,000. And then you've got federal taxes, state and local taxes here, and housing is pretty substantial. Mortgage, rent, property taxes, home and insurance, repairs, and other lodging. Of course, it's strange that that's there. Of course, household expenses would include things like services, supplies, appliances, furnishings in the house. But you can see here, utilities. So all these things that are being, all this stuff here up at the top, from food and home all the way up, is obviously necessities needed. Eating out, though, you can still see this is a widening a bit here for the average American household spending, but I believe still this is too much, in my opinion, for eating out there. I believe a lot of money can be saved there to put towards precious metals and alcohol there too, health insurance, other medical, household spending. In my opinion, at this point in the game, in their life, would there necessarily need to be this much? Now, of course, it just depends. We have to look at each age group exclusively. if the previous age group spent, let's look at the previous age group here on household expenses. They spent almost $4,000 in those expenses. That same group may spend much less here. So you have to take into account that these may be a one-off. Let's say they bought a new furnishings for the living room or whatever. It was $3,000 and $4,000. Well, they're not going to need to do that for the next year, or what have you. I mean, so it just depends on when that was done. That's assuming a lot of these are one-time purchases. You can see the phone plans, 2.6 of all spending. There that is. Education, entertainment accounts for 6.6% of all spending here for the things going on there. And make no mistake, I believe this is obviously it's a level of spending that I think there should be some entertainment spending. I'm not saying that people should give up enjoying life and doing things and the like, but I think there's room to move in certain places where you can make a decision. Hey, it might be better to buy a 10th ounce of gold this month rather than go to this concert or what have you. And the miscellaneous spending, it includes other things and other categories not listed here, but still could be considered somewhat of a necessity. All right, very good. And then, of course, gifts and spending. And I'm not going to take anything away from this level here because I think that's certainly praiseworthy and laudable there. But other things up above here, I think especially the eating out is probably where I would probably make the cut the most. Clothing, still, I would probably take a little bit out of this as well, too, if it were me. There's ways to do things without dramatically affecting your lifestyle. Now, there's others of us who would dramatically change their lifestyles to make some of these changes. Moving up into the 45 to 54 age range, we can see salaries increased, 94,000 here, almost 100,000 for household spending here. More in federal taxes, state and local there. By the way, this depends on the locality from which you live. There's some states where this is quite dramatically more. In the income, you see a savings here. This is very good to see. This is encouraging to see people are saving that much there. Then you see, your household income there, utilities, vehicles, gas and insurance. Maybe it's a larger family. Maybe you have at this point, you might have a 16-year-old driving, and you're between the 16 and 18-year-old. So your insurance is probably going to go up with this level of driving. Then food at home and eating out. Again, these are, I think, for all age groups, appears to be this is something that definitely could be a change there for sure. Household spending and phone. Let's see here. By the way, this breaks the phone. Let's see here. One of these things breaks it down. Oh, here's the insurance. And maybe that's just a generalized thing. But clothing, education, entertainment there. 6.3% of spending. So a little less in this age group. Miscellaneous and charity. Again, I would say the same things applies to this age group. Eating out, maybe a little bit out of entertainment. You can accumulate a pretty good amount of gold and silver for the year. Then the age 55 to 64, you see a little less. Some of these maybe somebody's retired a little bit early, getting a little bit from Social Security and income there, dividends and property, and other income out there. And then you see here some of the taxes paid and spending. Savings has increased a bit there on the dollar amount anyways. But you see here, housing still up, utilities, vehicle, gas. Pretty much the same type of breakdown here for all of these different categories in this age group. But just the income has changed a bit here. And then you get into retirement age, you can see the salaries greatly decreased. Maybe they're back to working part-time, paying less in taxes, getting some Social Security here. dividends and property, all these different things, borrowing and savings, other income, housing, still, trying to pay off that house, perhaps here at this point, and but it could be also include, a little bit of other lodging, repairs, insurance, and the like that's going on there, traveling, but look here, eating out is less, and food and home is more in this age group. So that's good, but I think there's still, with entertainment here and some of the eating out, although there might be a little bit less here, room to put some money in towards gold and silver. I believe that still they could, although at this point they're probably thinking about maybe stacking less and passing it along. And so at this point, I probably wouldn't mess with a whole lot of here in this particular case, even though they could afford it. If they already have some gold and silver, I would say just, unless they are collectors, probably not much need to stack more. But I believe there is still room in this category as well. So we take a look at the age 75 plus. Now look here, still a little bit, mostly Social Security, very little in federal income tax, and barely a little bit in state income tax. And then you take a look here and see where things are. Still stuff in housing, but most of that's taxes and insurance and repairs and the like, and for those that are still living at home at this particular time. And then we get down here, we see eating out and eating at home. This is probably the lowest margin, I would say, probably between all the different categories, but fascinating indeed to see this stuff, and much more giving to charity and the like here, and what's going on at this point in the game. I believe they probably, if they were going to accumulate silver and gold at this point, I would just hold on to it or pass it along to the next generation. If they have not purchased silver and gold and they finally become enlightened about the metals, there's still some room to buy a little bit, and where that can be passed along to the next generation. If that's the case, a good chunk of this, the gifts and charity, could potentially be that to pass on to the next generation. So if we take a look at all the households together, by looking at it as a whole, as an average here, we can see that 13.5% of all the income for all the age ranges here is in savings. And even if you don't change your lifestyle here, I believe there is potential here to take some of this, not all of it, but some of it, towards gold and silver. But I believe that even if you don't mess with the savings at all, I believe there's room in these in some of these categories down here, I believe, to put towards gold and silver. So yes, the answer to the question is yes. Americans can afford to buy gold and silver, but Americans are probably one of the most least likely nations to accumulate gold and silver. So post your thoughts below. I thought it was an interesting data here to see what the income and spending is for each category. I thought that was fascinating. Again, this comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and so I think it's fascinating to see all these different age groups there in how they are putting money away. I thought the savings for each year, I think, was quite fascinating to see how much is actually people are saving each year. I think that's actually very good news. I didn't realize it was that high. So there you have it. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.